And one of the easiest things that you can add to a website, and especially a input field, is what we call as a date picker. Date picker allows you to go in and you click in the field, a calendar will appear. So it helps the user be able to choose from the calendar. So, and typically as you're working with any type of forms, you want to be able to go in and make it easier for the user, and a calendar definitely is an easy way for them to pick the dates that they want. Now this is done with the jQuery UI widget called Date Picker, and it's very easy to work with. Very easy to work with. So let's take a look at my code real quick. The key here is to have your input tag we need to identify it, and I'm doing this by using a class. So when we go in and use the date picker, we're going to say, hey, go take a look for this class and apply this widget to it. So up here in my doc ready section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in here an extra line of code, and since I'm using jQuery, I'm just going to go in. Hold on a second there. I'm going to start with a $sign. Then in quotation marks, I'm going to say .date, because you're always going to have your selector on that part. And again, since I am doing jQuery and I'm doing a jQuery UI widget, in my previous videos I've mentioned this before, but I do have links up here to the jQuery and the jQuery UI file. You need to have links to that in your head section, or also you can place in your body section. If you don't have them, they will not work on that part. So down here again, we got our select with the date, and then here we just simply say date picker. Just like that. Now when I save this, let's go ahead and take a view of my page now. Now I'm going to click in the date area. As you can see here, the date comes up and it's not formatted. Okay. Now, the calendar does appear, but now you have to worry about formatting, and that's half the battle right there. It's half the battle, trying to go in and modify it. So right now what we have to do is do some slight adjustments into our style sheet and go from there. This is where you have to kind of know more about the theming aspect of jQuery widgets and using the CSS framework that jQuery UI has. Now, on that regards, if you go and look at the API documentation, you can see a list of different styles that you can apply to your calendar. So everything that you have here, you actually have to type this in your style sheet as a class, and then you can apply any type of styles that you want to your calendar to get it to come out correctly. As you can see here, we can go in and have it affect the UI Datepicker header, which is going to be the header section of the where the months are. You can also go in and apply a style to the calendar aspect right here. So there's so many different styles that you can apply. Now you can also go in and use jQuery UI widget to the theme roller that you can have aspect to with jQuery UI widgets, and you can actually go in and download that theme and create your theme right here if you wanted to. So there's a theming option right up here, and I'll talk more about this. So if you're not comfortable with that, definitely review the theming aspect, and then you can take a look at the theme roller, which will allow you to customize and create your own colors if you wanted to use this website for that purpose. Or you can just go in and use your style sheet to create your own on that. So like in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to put in the UI Datepicker. I'm going to add a background color. Let me just change that to 3S for white. And in that regards, when now I look at it, let's take a look here. Here you can see the calendar is filled with a white background, because that's what we applied the CSS to. So the half the battle is once you have your calendar and you got the date picker in, it really comes down to the theming aspect. Is spending time on getting the colors to come out the way you want on that. So like in this, let me just go back to my code real quick. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add it to my header this time. I want to see what happens with my header aspect. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say .ui-datepicker-header. Then in curly brackets, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background color to be a green, and I'm going to change the text color to be white. As you can see here, it's starting to work. Now we have green up here at the top, and then of course the white is still here with the white text, and we have the white background for the body. Now there's other things we have to adjust accordingly. But again, this is what we're doing, is we're going in and working with the theme, the framework, to be able to customize your own style. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the text in that header section bold. I'm going to increase the line height between the previous and next, and then with the month, so it's easier to read. So I'm changing the line height there. We add a little text shadow, and we add a little border around it to go with that. And so let me save this and let's take a look at it real quick. So as you can see here, all we're doing is we're basically formatting that section. Okay, now I want a text align. I want to center the text that's inside here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to use another style. I'm going to do .ui datepicker -title, and then simply it's just simple CSS here. So we're going to do text align :center. Now, as anything, I always like to, once I add something, I like to check it out and make sure it works the way I'm looking for. So let's reload this real quick. As you can see here, see how the title July 2015 is centered. Now, if you want to add more spacing in between, the text and the previous and next and the month, that just comes down to adjusting the line height. So if we go up to 30 here, and this is all CSS, that's the key, is once you learn how to apply the styles, it's not that bad. So see how there's extra spacing on that part. So now I need to control, I want to make sure that I work on where this previous and next area is. See how they're too close together? So I want to basically add a little extra space to help control that. Now again, just like I was talking about before, the widget has a certain styles that allow you to control that area. So basically it's a UI Datepicker -prev, prev, and then Datepicker -next on that part. So let's take a look at that and add that in. Okay. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to make the previous button float on the left side, and then I'm going to make the Datepicker next float on the right side. So that way they're not so close to each other. They're going to be floating, so there'll be one on the left and one on the right. So let's take a look at that. See how previous is on the left, and see next is over here on the right. Now notice what happens to July. July is being forced into the middle because there's empty space there. That's what happens when you work with floats. Now if you want the month to appear below the previous and next, then just like you do in a layout, you actually have to add the clear both option. And you're going to have to apply that to the date picker title. That's the one that's controlling where July is placed. So all we have to do here is add clear both. And again, if you like the way it is, it's like on the same line, then you don't have to worry about it. And so when I click in the date area, you can see that previous and next are on both sides, and then July is down below. Again, this is just, you have to kind of sit down and decide how you want to style it. And if you like it the way it was previously, great. on that part. But again, this is something that, most of these widgets you have to work with styling and just have better control over it. Now it's time to go in and start working with the actual dates. And when they work with this jQuery widget here, the date picker, basically it's made up of as a table cells. So what you have to do now is basically use the style UI Datepicker and then indicate the element of the table that you want to manipulate. So for example, the first row, which is up to the top, that has Monday, Sunday, Tuesday, all the days, that is using the TH tag on that part. So what I want to do is I want to add a style that affects just that style. So in this case, I'm going to say .ui-datepicker th, and then I'm going to just change the text so it's all in uppercase. I'm going to control the font size. I'm going to increase the padding above and below, and then change the text color. So let's take a look at that real quick. I come in here. As you can see here, see how Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, see it's how it has been formatted. Now, these other cells can be controlled by looking at either, you can control the space between the table rows if you wanted to. You can go in and control the TD cells, the widths, and you can align it and so forth. So right now you can see, see how this 9 is off centered. So, let's go in and at least align these numbers up. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to be applying the style to the TD tags. So when we look at our code here, I'm just going to put in .ui-datepicker TD, and then I'm just going to say text align center. Now, granted, can you add other styles to this? Yes, this is the benefit. So let's go in. If you want to change the color, if you want to go in and make the font weight bold so it stands out, you can add other styles here that will apply that style to the text within those cells. So like in a case like this, you might want to make the width a little bit larger as well, or add a little color to it. I'm just going to increase the line height a little bit. So I made it font weight bold and had added a line weight or height of 30 pixels. And when I view this, you can see that the numbers are bold, they're centered, and there's a little extra spacing between the rows. Now, again, as you start looking at this, you might think the width of the area is too small, so we can control the width as well. So everything that we learned about CSS can be applied to here. So what I'm trying to do here is just show you some different ways to customize your styles for the date picker. Okay, so once you start working with styles, again, what I want you to remember, just go back to the API documentation for jQuery Datepicker. It talks about all the different styles that you can apply there that allows you to control different elements of the calendar. Okay, I could spend another hour on going in and adding styles, but I just want you to get an idea of what you can do to format the Datepicker to fit your design. Now, once you have that in, you can also add other properties to your date picker. Okay, so like for example, when we view this right now, we can go in. You'll see it says July 2015. So I have to use the next buttons and the previous buttons to go to the previous, to the next month or the previous month. So what you can do is you can set up certain properties that allow me to create a drop-down list where the month is, and I can skip to that month automatically. Okay, so to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break up these parentheses here at the date picker. I'm going to put a curly bracket in and a closing curly bracket down here at the bottom. And then what we're going to do is you can put in different properties for this. So if you wanted to have it to say that you want to be able to access the month or the year, to change that by clicking on the drop down list, then it's a very simple aspect. We're going to put a property in here that allows us to do this, and all we're going to do is we're going to say change month : true. Now I'm going to separate this with a comma because we're going to have different properties to be applied here. And so now I'm going to do change year colon true. Now when I save this, oops, let me go back here and refresh. Up here at the top, you can see that the drop-down list has been added. Okay. Now, are there other things that you can add to it? Yes. And so when you look at your jQuery widgets API documentation, you'll see different things that you can add. Like, for example, I could actually go in and change, like if I click on the word next, I can have it skip 3 months, skip 4 months. Instead, by default, it goes by 1 month at a time. You can also go in and change the formatting. When I click on a date here, it formats the date in the input field to look a certain way. So if you wanted the years to be different, to be the years come first, then the day, then the month, you can actually set that up if you needed to. And that's simply using the date format option. So here I'm going to add another comma, and I'm going to say date format. It's a capital F, colon, and then in quotation marks I'm going to put in the syntax that I want. I'm going to say YY hyphen MM hyphen DD. Then when I choose a different date here, you can see that's a little bit backwards than the default. So there's so many different options you can actually add to the date widget. You have to go to the Datepicker widget documentation, and you'll see things that you can add to it. You can format and make it easier for the person to pick out the proper date.